Warning: the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. Now, here he is, author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Trump's War, and God, Faith, and Reason, Michael Savage.
Don't worry, it's the Savage Nation. Let me just say this to you. Talk radio is about opinion. It's not a commercial for Donald Trump. It's not a commercial for a particular party. Talk radio is about opinion. No one owns me. Nobody owns me. I'm not a member of the cartel that controls radio and television. And let me tell you something else. Things are getting so controlled right now with the mergers, the AT&T. I don't know what else they bought. Soon Amazon will buy them all, and there'll be one company that runs America, including the U.S. military. I never heard of anything like this. But you see, this conglomeration of corporations is the death of freedom of speech. You may not understand this right now, but there is an antitrust division of the U.S. Justice Department that is dead. There's no one in there. It's fundamentally a crypt with nobody home. There's not been an antitrust action that I know of for years. Well, what's the point of it? How can you let one guy own everything? How is that even possible? Is that good for America? But don't call me on this. I'm not interested in it. I really don't even want to talk about it. I saw that in Germany, which is nationally controlled, the German TV bosses want to shut down conservative shows. There's a show there called Hard But Fair. It sounds like my show. But the scum that run the television shows in Germany are saying they're too conservative. They're too anti-Muslim. They should allow their women to be raped. They should welcome being raped by the immigrants. You know, 2 weeks ago in Germany, you didn't read it in the local papers because it didn't meet the protocols of the newspaper business. A 14-year-old Jewish girl was raped and murdered by an immigrant from Syria, a Muslim. And all hell didn't break loose because the Nazis, who are called progressives, who control the television shows, want the plug to be pulled on the nation's political talk shows for 1 year, arguing that their populist agenda has helped fuel the rise of the far right. You think we're far from that here in America? I don't. I don't think we're too far from that. Now, here in America, we have an immigration problem that hasn't changed much under Trump. We think it has. We hope it has. We pray it has. But has it? They're still pouring over the border. They're still sucking our social services dry. They're still melting us down culturally. So tell me how it's changed, no matter what we have said. And yet, at the same hand, being an immigrant son, I, Michael Savage, an immigrant son, the only one in major media who is an immigrant son, and I'm proud of the fact that I can walk in two worlds at the same time, the world of the immigrant and the world of the American. I asked myself, if I just arrived here, legal or illegal, how would I get started on the American dream? And I'm going to ask you today on the Savage Nation, if you were a new immigrant to America, what would you do to get started on the American dream? Some of them work really hard, and they're working on the American dream. But what would you do? What business would you go into? What would you get, a souvlaki stand in Manhattan? Would you become a gardener, compete with the other gardeners, one of whom might steal your truck and your tools while you're out doing a job and you're up in a tree? You're up in a tree and your pal that you hired, your own friend from your own village and your own town in your own country, steals your truck while you're in the tree and sells it, and you have nothing. What would you do then? Now, how would you start in this country? How would you get to square one in America as you see limos zipping by on Fifth Avenue? What would that do to you? How would you begin? Where would you start? Would you become bitter? Would you become a criminal? Would you go into the underworld to say, I'm not waiting in line, I'm going to do what I have to do? Now, many of you listening to the show are descended from immigrants. You may be one or two generations away from immigration, particularly in the big cities. Probably your grandfather. You can call and tell me those stories, but I don't really want to go there to the maudlin. I want to ask you, if you, the listener of the Savage Nation, just arrived in America, what would you do to get started on the American dream? How would you begin? What a country we're living in. How we've gone from a melting pot to a chamber pot is an old story of mine, but you know what? It hasn't changed very much. But on the other hand, let's look at we Americans. Been here several generations. We're real Americans. What does a pimp in Nevada winning an election tell us about our political system today? What does a pimp in Nevada winning an election tell us about America today? Another topic is, how has feminism warped father-daughter relations in the United States of America? Oh, is that a hot-button issue? That's the third rail of America right now, to say anything about feminism. But let me ask that question. How has feminism warped father-daughter relations in your family? Forget about America. Care to confess? Care to talk about it? And new immigrants, again, if you were a new immigrant, I'm not asking you if you are an immigrant. I'm asking you as an American who've been here. Your grandfather, your great-grandfather came here. What would you do if you just arrived on this shore, on the shores of this nation? How would you get started? Now, talking about the news, which I'm kind of bored of, Cohen to flip. I don't really care. If he committed a crime, let him do the time. De Niro bombs. Keitel's 14-year-old son is mugged of his bicycle. See, they thought, these guys, Cohen, De Niro, Keitel, these guys owned the city in their mind. They were New York City. And as they walked on the pavement of Manhattan, they thought the city pavement they walked on was set in stone. Instead, they found out they can feel that the rumblings of quicksand are just below the pavement. Just below the pavement, they can feel the rumblings. The rumblings on the pavement indicate there's quicksand under their feet. Yesterday, they walked with assurance that their life was set in stone. Now let's go back to the fruity little song that I opened with. And I have no idea what you're going to call about. Just remember one thing before you play the fruity song. Here's one thing to remember. I am the underdog in national talk radio. Make no mistakes about it. I am not a member of the radio cartel that controls all the top shows and has tried to engineer me out of this business from day one, try to undermine me, steal my business, and get me out of this business. I am an underdog. That's number one. Number two, talk radio is about opinion. It is not a commercial for a president or a party. It never should have been and never would be. And when someone was doing this for Obama day and night, turning their show into a commercial for Obama, tell me what you said then. You were mortified by it. You were nauseated by it, weren't you? Well, we're supposed to sit here now? Whatever anybody says or does that is somewhat critical of Trump, the whole audience goes insane. They become so brainwashed they think it's fake news. What am I talking about? Yesterday I did a show called The Trump-Kim Summit is somewhere between Reagan and Chamberlain. It was the most brilliant possible take on what actually happened in Singapore. Nobody would link that story except, well, of course, it's on michaelsavage.com, but my good friend Chris Ruddy linked it to newsmax.com. He linked it, but there are other articles that looked it in the eye, by the way. And I saw other articles. A man named David Ignatius on Newsmax wrote, Kim gave up little in deal with Trump. Eli Lake wrote, linked on Newsmax, Trump treating Kim as a statesman contradicts previous disposition. But if I were to say some things like that, what would happen? The Trump bots would go insane. They'd call me a commie. They'd call me a socialist. They'd call me a liberal. They'd tell me I'm a Russian spy. They'd tell me I work for Mueller. The world has changed. There's no thought in the country anymore. There's no chance for opinion anymore. It's either or. Either you're with us or you're against us. It's become nothing but a barnyard storm. And that's where we stand today. This is Michael Savage, the outsider on the inside. And Hard But Fair is the name of a show in Germany. But, I thought about that. This is really hard but fair. And never forget, this is not a commercial for Donald Trump. It's not a commercial for Republicans. It's not a commercial for any politician. That's one thought I'm having. But looking at the De Niro meltdown, for example, whose movies I told you I boycotted since he started in with his insanity. I used to love his movies. I couldn't get enough of him. I didn't care whether he was playing the tough guy or the comic guy. I liked him. I now boycott De Niro. I see him on the TV flipping by him. I think I go right by it because it's counted in the meter. Like, let's say you have Comcast cable and you stop on a movie. Well, of course, the computer counts how many times you hit it so they know what to program. I don't do it. I don't watch him. I don't watch Samuel Jackson. I used to think he was a pretty good villain in many ways. I don't watch him. I don't watch the other one. His car flipped over with the woman in the car, and then they gave him a God show, a 15-segment God show to cover it up. And just hear the guys, the cynics in Hollywood. Well, he's a big moneymaker. Car flipped over with a woman. Wait, how are we going to handle this? I got it. Let's get him a God series on Nat Geo. We'll take the earring out of his ear for that show, and he can walk around and talk about the world's religions. I boycott him. Who have you started to boycott since the primaries when you saw that they were stone-hearted racists or haters of America? Who did you find to be so obnoxious you don't watch them anymore, right? Now, many of you are calling already, thank God, on how you'd start in the country. What triggered this in me is interesting. I don't know what triggered it in me, but it's interesting. I thought about what would I do if I just landed here. My grandfather came here with nothing, came here from Russia. I wouldn't say nothing. I don't know what he had. I have no idea. The guy died at 47. I never met him. And he was a tailor, but a fine tailor. So I believe he wound up, I know he owned his own tailor shop in Manhattan. I have the address somewhere. And he started to make fine suits. He was actually he didn't just do cuffs. You didn't bring him in for an alteration like a cuff, like you do in Macy's if you buy a suit. My grandfather, Sam, made suits from whole cloth. And I understood later in life that he was very popular amongst the wise guys, the gangsters, the racketeers. They all had their suits made. I didn't know anything about it. I don't know why. Must have been a good suit maker. And that was interesting. He made good suits. They liked to dress well. They were sharp. The Italians, the Jews who were like wise guys all had their suits made. But, okay, so he then worked here, brought his family over. My father came when he was 7, came here in 1920, immigrant. What did he do? What did my father do? He went to high school. I don't know how far he went. I really don't know. Not much further than that. I hear stories. He was 7 years old. He was driving a laundry cart with a horse pulling it. I can't believe it. Like, what century is that from? My father always had a scar on his leg, like the knee, like a huge scar. Hey, Dad, how'd you get that scar? I don't. Then years later, they never told you anything. You had to, get it through, the grapevine. The horse bolted, pulled the laundry cart. My father fell off, the cart, and a spike went through his leg. He never talked about it. Not a big deal. This was life. This is what it was for immigrants. Welfare? Are you joking? First of all, it was limited. Number two, they would rather have thrown themselves off a fire escape than take what was called home relief. They had self-respect. They had pride. They'd rather throw themselves into the East River and drown than take a nickel from the city. Now compare that to what's coming into this country today. That's the opening to the show. Be here.
Savage.
He's so blatantly stupid. He's a punk. He's a dog. He's a pig. He's a con, a artist, a mutt who doesn't know what he's talking about, doesn't do his homework, doesn't care.
This is Robert De Niro shaving in the morning.
Doesn't pay his taxes.
Someone put a microphone and a camera in Robert De Niro's bathroom.
He's a national disaster. He's an embarrassment to this country. It
So
makes
he's looking in the mirror, and this is what he sees.
This
is sad.
The
man's having a meltdown. He's a mook, a bum, a mutt.
He talks how he wants to punch people.
Turn him off already. It's enough with this guy. He thinks he's in a movie all the time. This guy is so stupid. He thinks he's so untouchable that he's destroying his restaurant chain. He's opening a restaurant in Toronto with the poor Japanese guy, Nobu, whatever that is. And the Japanese guy's apologizing for De Niro attacking Trump. Did you see that? I don't know if you know this. This Japanese guy that suckered into a deal with De Niro. What a loser situation this is to be stuck with a mutt, a mook, a bum like him that every day attacks the country. By attacking the president, you're attacking 50% of the country, schmuck. And you're opening a restaurant chain with this poor Japanese guy? Now tell me what conservative, what independent's can eat that fakakta sushi in Nobu with a mutt like you at the helm? A mook, a bum, a mutt. I don't understand this. He's in a movie all the time. So that's that problem. Anyway, going back to the original questions that I opened with on the Savage Nation, the opinion show. Remember, don't tune in if you just want to hear a government position. You're not going to get it. I'm not an arm of the government. I don't sleep in the White House. Rob, KLIF, line 6. Go ahead. You're on the Savage Nation.
Hi, Dr. Savage. Thank you for taking the call. I think you're open to the show. You're absolutely correct about your point as far as the loudest voices, the voices we see on TV, the voices we hear on radio, aside from yourself, that They are insane. They don't know how to think. There is no critical thinking. But I see it out in the general public. I talk to people all the time. I think.
Wait, hold it. Do you see critical thinking in the general public? Is it still permissible?
Well, we elected President Trump. If I think that's the clear and simple sign.
How could they listen to shows with hosts who attack Trump for the whole year and now make believe that they lick his boots? Don't they understand history? The loudest voices supporting Trump now, including the great Sean Vanity, attacked Trump for a year straight. Okay, what goes around comes around. That's all I can say. So what do you want to talk about? If you arrived in this... How does a pimp winning an election in Nevada, what does that tell you about America today? That a pimp from Nevada could win. If that guy Hoff is listening, I want you to call the show.
Savage.
The Savage Nation. So my dog is so smart. He's got better timing than most people on television. During the break, I went to the radio kitchen to heat up some leftover Chinese food from yesterday before I ordered more bad Chinese food for lunch. And he came running up with only 40 seconds to go. He made me come back to the microphone. How does this dog have timing? He's 15 years old. So what actually are we talking about? I don't know. You figure it out. I'll let you figure it out. I didn't add something else in. I know I got great callers. I'm not groping. I'm not dying up here. I'm living up here. The show's going great, and I enjoy it. Most days I enjoy it, but I'm a little pissed off today, more than normal, because I did the most brilliant show you could ever possibly imagine on the Korea Summit, which was a little bit of something of everything, a something for everyone. And there was no media notice, and I'm very angry because I'm not a member of any cartel. I am the outsider's outsider. I'm like the Lone Ranger in the media. I'm just the persona non grata. Fox won't have me on because of the boycott of the thug who makes them the most money. The thug is so thin-skinned. The thug, who's their biggest star on Fox News, has told them to never let me on anyone else's show. Now, this thug has all the money in the world. This thug has all the fame in the world. And yet this thug has told others there, like with the iron fist, that he's a great American, but don't have Michael Savage on. You can't have him on. Why? What's the threat to the thug? So you go on, life goes on. So you know I'm not going to be on CNN. When I did my last book, who was the one guy who invited me on? I didn't go on. The refrigerator bulb of television, Don Lemon. Talking to Don Lemon would be like opening a refrigerator, and the bulb, even the refrigerator bulb itself, would be out, and trying to find light in the refrigerator. So I figured I better not go on the show. MSNBC, are you joking? You think they could take me on? You think the sneering, smirking, genius Rachel Madcow could take me on? She couldn't come near me. So what's left for me? Oh, yeah, Good Morning America, right. I'm not a rapist. I'm not a legal alien who raped a 10-year-old, so I'm not going to be on Good Morning America. So what's left for me as an author and a broadcaster but my own show? Nothing. So that's all. I'm glad I have my own show. Now, what am I watching on television? I will get to you on what would you do if you came here and how would you start? Who do you boycott because of what they expose themselves as being? Those are some of the topics I raised. The pimp from Nevada, we have one open line for him. He has not called. I asked you how has feminism warped father-daughter relations in America? Ooh. That is such a minefield of a topic. We haven't got one call on that. No one's willing to cop to that one. Now, I'm going to tell you a story, not about me, about someone I know, or I heard about someone I allegedly didn't know later on about what happened to him. That daughter became a lesbian, and then she became a trans, and now she's a man. I actually lie. But the thing is, it's not that big a deal. It happens in America today. The shock is she looks just like a father. May he rest in peace. I always liked the father, so I like her. I don't care what she be. Him now, sorry. I knew her when she was young. I remember she was 20 years old, and she had the most beautiful girlfriend. Looked like a movie star. I said to her, I knew her since she was a kid. I said, what do you have that I don't? She said, everything. How could you not love someone like that? Well, now that she's a man, nice person. But what are you going to do? That's what people do. They have a proclivity, and that's the end of it. It's not good enough to just act it out. Now you have to act it out by acting it out. I don't know what that's. I don't get it. You know, I have a picture of my great-grandfather on my mantle. It's like a daguerreotype. I never met him because I never met my grandfather who died young. Then someone in the family, some distant relative, is doing genealogy now. Everyone's spitting in a tube now and finding out they're related to the king of Prussia. You know, that's the latest thing. Everyone like, goes back. Whoever you talk to, they go, oh, yeah, did you know I have an ancestry? They were all a nobility. Maybe it was not nobility. Maybe it's just to make it up so they keep you spitting in a tube. You're telling me everyone had noble origins? There was probably in every family, there was someone who was this. But it's always like there was a rapist, murderer, bank robber, crazy person wound up in a madhouse, axe murderer, doctor, probably somewhere along the lines, rustler. Not everyone can be related to the Queen of England somewhere, but everyone, you know, they spit in the tube. Oh, yeah, I checked my ancestry. I'm like 98% related to the nobility of Norway. And what's the other 2%? They don't tell you that when you spit in the tube. It'll ruin your business. I tried it once. I never got anything back. That was really weird. Then I was once in Park City, Utah. I listened to this story with ancestry. Now, the Mormons have it down better than anybody. They got like a mountain somewhere with everybody's genealogy going back to, I think, Jesus Christ himself. They have a mountain of data, the Mormons. So they have like computers. It's like a storefront. You walk in Park City, Utah. So I go in. I pump in the names. They let you do it for free. Nothing comes up. There's nothing. Zero. There's no ancestry. My wife put in a name. They have like it go back to like the 1600s. This one married that one. A Cherokee came in the tribe. And she got the whole thing, and it was all true. She knew it to be true. Mohawk was in there, the Iroquois, the this one, the that one, the Mayflower, the Daughters of the American Revolution were in there. Mine was blank. Couldn't figure out. So the guy who was in there, like the chief genealogist, nice guy, like very Mormon-esque, tall, emaciated, like sallow cheeks, but they're like great people. I said it came up blank. So he made like a call in the back of the storefront to the mountain, like the mountain that they have. Now the guy's the chief. So the guy in the mountain said, we'll get back to you. They call back, we can't find anything. I have no genealogy. I'm starting to think maybe I'm an alien. I don't know. That's a big thing now, the whole thing with the aliens. My thing about aliens is, so what? What are you going to do about it? Some of them are probably nice and some are bastards. And what are you know, same thing. Like, if they're here disguised amongst us, so what am I going to do about it? They're probably so smart that some act like they're nice, some act like they're De Niro's. You don't know. To me, I don't care what they are. I don't care where they came from, whether they came from Russia, Bolivia, Mexico, or Mars. It doesn't matter to me. How they behave is what matters. What do I care if they're aliens? Most of the people I meet are alien to me. That's the truth of the matter. So what I'm doing at night is very funny, becoming very hermit-like. Do the show, take a nap, always a nap. I've napped every day of my life, I think, since I'm an adult. You don't know that. That's the secret to my success. It's a tremendous thing to tell you, that the nap is the salvation. You must nap. All high-powered people will admit that. Now, you look at the inventors even. What was his name? The light bulb guy, Edison. Edison never slept. I don't know if you know that. He only took short naps. He felt if he slept like an 8-hour job, it would dull his brain. I have to sleep a whole night. I'm not lying when I sell you the mattresses. I do. I sleep a night through. No matter what's bothering me, I don't know what it is. I can sleep through a whole night. So anyway, what I'm watching now on television tonight, I'm watching a weird show. You never heard of it. It's on cable, like a weird cable. I've been watching Surviving Escobar, allegedly based on a book by the hitman for Pablo Escobar, and it's set inside a Colombian prison or prisons, and how he survives in the prison system of Colombia, which, let me tell you, is not the American prison system of today. And it shows the lives that these gangsters lead and the regular gangsters lead, the regular criminals lead in these prisons. The top guys have bedrooms, beds, bureaus. They bring in women, they have food. They bribe the guards. They can have anything they want, but they have to serve their time. They run their businesses from the prisons. And I said that to someone who's in the business. They said, well, we're on the road to having that same thing happening here in the United States. I said, really? They have bedrooms? Not yet, but the same structure exists now in American prisons. The guards are basically given up controlling the gangs. They can't control them. There aren't enough guards. They don't have enough power. And it's a live and let live situation. It's an interesting observation, but I am very, very interested in that whole thing, surviving Escobar. I don't know why. It makes American gangster movies look like trash, invented garbage. Like all the characters De Niro played, as good as they were all fake compared to the real McCoy. And you watch shows like this with the Colombians, the Mexicans, it makes the American gangster movies look like, Mickey Mouse. That's all. Where was I when I got telling you about Teddy, how he has a great sense of timing? Well, he got me back here. I guess I should take some calls. So let's go to the number one question. Did the pimp yet from Nevada call, Jim? Poor Jim has a laryngitis now. He can't even answer me. If I ask him what are the callers calling about, he does sign language, like a finger across the throat would mean forget about it. If he nods, that means forget about it. What are they calling about now, Jim? If he touches his right eyelid, it means forget about it. If he brushes his left ear, it means forget about it. Oh, Lord, life is good. People are wonderful and business is great. Remember that bumper sticker from the 70s? Remember those bumper stickers? There's no optimism left in the country. Everyone hates everybody. Either they're Trump maniacs or anti-Trump maniacs. Can't anyone think anymore? What about bumper stickers that say life is good, people are wonderful, and business is great? I used to like that bumper sticker. It got me through a lot of bad days. Now I'm ready to get my Kate Spade bag and my Bourdain spoon and go to a 50-story, walkout. My Kate Spade bag, my Anthony Bourdain spoon. I watched one of his shows last night just for the heck of it because he's dead. Horrible. Nightmarishly bad. No, I mean, I'm not saying anything about the suicide. Forget about that. I'm not criticizing. That's a terrible thing. The show stank. I don't know where he was. You could see he was faking it in Austria, eating a garbage, heavy foods. We're now eating schmaltz, a dish from Austria. Hans, tell us what schmaltz is. It's the rendered fat of a duck's behind. Oh, it's so delicious. Man, you haven't lived till you've eaten the rendered fat of a duck's behind. Who would eat that crap? And every show he has to make believe the food's better than anywhere on earth. That's why I don't like fancy restaurants, whether it's Nobu, Schmobu, or Hobu. I won't eat it. Nobu. Why? Because Robert De Niro gave it a blessing I was supposed to eat in there? I wouldn't be caught dead in Nobu. If they offered me $50,000 worth of free whatever they sell in there, I wouldn't go there because of De Niro. That poor Japanese guy got suckered in with him in a business deal with a loudmouth like him putting down half the country. In fact, they did a joint meeting a week ago. So De Niro's blasting Trump. He's a mook, he's a bum, he's a this, he's a this, he's a that. And the poor Japanese partner says, I actually like the president. I'd love to meet him. He's smarter than the schmuck actor he got in business with. I mean, he must have figured out that 50% of America voted for the guy, and they also eat in restaurants. I wouldn't go in there. That's like the Chick-fil-A of the conservative movement. Hey, Robert, take that and put it in your pipe. You've turned Nobu into the Chick-fil-A of the conservative people in this country. I would never eat a piece of sushi from that chain of yours. That poor Japanese guy. You ought to give him his money back and let him go back where he came from. He might make a living. You'll destroy it altogether with your big mouth. Now what? What do you want to do now? I got some callers. We're moving on already. I'm not even on the original topic. That's the problem. Is I go here, I get you hooked in, but no one called on the one topic I wanted to hear about, which is, I can't see it, it's in red now, the feminism, how it's destroyed father-daughter relations. I'll tell you about something, not from my life. I have a great relationship with all of my, no, not mine, someone else when I come back to the Savage Nation.
Savage.
Shield your car with Car Shield because nothing can put a dent into your summer plans like your car breaking down, right? You're on a road trip, and bing, you hit with a huge repair bill out of nowhere, and all the money you save for the trip or an island getaway is going to go to fix the car. If you only had extended vehicle protection from Car Shield, you wouldn't have to worry about it, right? What if you have to replace your engine? Do I have to tell you how much that would cost? What about a simple repair to a sensor? That's over $1,000 today. Nothing simple with a car today. And let's say your car does break down or you need a repair. You can pick your own mechanic or your own dealer to do the work, your choice. And Car Shield will give you 24/7 roadside assistance and even a rental car while yours is being fixed for free. Free. So listen carefully. If your car has 5,000, 150,000 miles, It doesn't mean you have to pay high repair bills. CarShield administrators have even paid out over $2 billion in claims. They're the real McCoy. Save yourself thousands in future car repairs. Don't worry about missing out this summer. Get covered by the ultimate and extended vehicle protection. Call 1-800-CAR-SHIELD. Oh, no, it's 1-800-CAR-6100. That's right. It's 800-CAR-6100. And mention code SAVAGE or visit carshield.com, code SAVAGE, to save 10%. That's carshield.com, code SAVAGE, or call 800-CAR-6100, code SAVAGE. Shield your car with CarShield by calling 800-CAR-6100, code SAVAGE. KSFO, Daniel, line 3. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for taking my
Yes, sir.
Listen, you say you're alone out there with just your show. Really not the case. There's a whole other market out there. It's a Netflix market, the documentary film market.
Netflix will not touch me. I am boycotted by the same group of evil that has boycotted me on HBO and Showtime. I was told that by an agent. They said, we will not do business with Michael Savage. So don't put your faith in Netflix. The same cartel that runs HBO, that Showtime, the same agents in Hollywood, the same vile filth that runs the entertainment industry runs Netflix. I'm sorry to tell you this. I had a top flight Hollywood filmmaker put together a pilot documentary on me. Some of the footage will bring you to tears. Some will make you laugh like you can't believe. They said, we won't touch him. We don't care how good he is. So you just got to understand, when I say to you I'm an outsider and I'm an underdog, I'm not making it up. That's who I am. So if I want a documentary, I'll finish it with the filmmaker and I'll put it up on my own, because it's never going to be seen on Netflix. Run by the same Hollywood that produces HBO and Showtime. The same agencies, the same agents, the same exact structure on Netflix, just by a different title, in my opinion. Sorry to break the news to you, but no, you're never going to see me on Netflix. You know, they're not the salvation. They're not an alternative. They're not an option. Same cartel. Whether it's not Katzenberg, Matzenberg, and Ratzenberg. So it's a different group, that's all. Oh, I wish I could say what I really want to say right now, but I'm not Louis Farrakhan. Let me put it to you that way. So I won't even go there. You know what I'm saying? Because you won't understand where I'm coming from. Someone just sent me this about your brain. It says, we already know that your interpretation of facts varies widely depending on your beliefs, but they just found out there's a thing called involuntary opinion confirmation, which is that when your brain is exposed to an opinion it agrees with, it automatically slips it into the facts folder of your mental filing cabinet. So your bias is built right into your opinions. What's fake and what's real? I'm real.
Savage. Warning, the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. Now, here he is, author of Liberalism is a Mental Disorder, Trump's War, and God, Faith, and Reason, Michael Savage.
Beautiful out there in Radio Land. It's 76 degrees and sunny on Sunset Boulevard. That's like radio was in the old days, right? Hello, New York. It's a beautiful day, sweltering on the city streets. How's the traffic on the Triborough Bridge? Have the Yankees hit new home runs? That's what radio used to sound like. It's like a different thing now. I brought what was called natural talk to talk radio. It's not like there weren't people who were doing it great. They were. And there's still people doing it well. But I created natural talk, which is a whole different thing. And you can't copy. You try to copy it, you fall on your face. It's like there's a show that I'm watching on TV, I think on Showtime, called I'm Dying Up Here. At first, I was iffy with it. Then it got better and better. I like the characters. I like the whole scene of the stand-up comics in the 70s. And you kind of have to know who the characters are to really get into it. But you don't really have to know, But some of them were famous and this and that. One's a burnout, one makes it. The schmuckiest one becomes the biggest hit. That kind of thing. But I often think about it. What would a comedian do for my show? What if I turned my microphone over to the biggest comedian in America today? Do you think they could do 3 hours of radio? No, they couldn't do it. Lenny Bruce used to say if you got like 15 minutes of dynamite, you can do a show, meaning you got to get the dynamite lines, and then you got to rehearse them. The timing is everything, and you do them over and over again, and then you augment them and embroider around them. But that's about it. But try doing this an hour at a time with the stop sets, the timing, the live reads, the this, the that, the technical failures, and make it a cohesive whole where people come back and they want to hear more and more of it every day. It's a very difficult act, but I enjoy it. It's in my blood. I'm not getting to a bigger point. I'm just talking. It's a talk show, isn't it? So what are the main points from the first hour for those of you who came in late to school? Talk radio is about opinion. It is not a commercial for an administration or a president. That's number one. I then talked about whose movies or TV shows have you been boycotting, like De Niro's, because of his insanity. What other actors have you decided never to watch? Then I talked about what does a pimp in Nevada winning an election tell us about America and American politics today? Then I asked you how has feminism warped father-daughter relations in the United States today? Then I asked you if you were a new immigrant, and I'm saying this to the people who are not. Have you ever looked around and asked yourself, what would you do if you just arrived here? And I talked about my grandfather who got here and had to start from zero, built up that little business in the tailor store, made the suits for the wise guys, died at 47 of a heart attack. I mean, it's horrible. I wish I had a grandfather who was like 95, sitting around somewhere who I could give something to, go visit him in an old age home. I mean, I don't have a brother. I wish I had a brother. He died young, too. I don't have a father because he died in 1970. I don't have a father. I don't have a grandfather. I don't have a this. I don't have a that. But I stand here and I do my show every day all on my own. Why? Because that's what I do. And that's it. I'm much stronger than I thought I was. All my life I didn't know how strong I really was. You don't know how strong you are until you test it, and you don't know how weak you are until you test it and you break. But like the Jewish gangster in the book, where's this God, Faith, and Reason book? I can't ever find a copy. Here it is. I look good in that picture. I got to tell you, it's like the photographer. Really good. Vince, man, you did a great job. He was leaving that day. Remember to tell you the picture of that story? Cover photo by Vince Ramini. Vince did the Teddy book, too. Vince came out to do the photographs. I'm the world's worst author from the point of view of the publisher with regard to photographing me. I hate it. I refuse to sit. I don't want to do it anymore. It's like the portrait of Dorian Gray. How many years can I sit for another picture? I said, you have hundreds of pictures of me. Use them. No, he's got to come out. So he comes out to do two books, Trump's War and God, Faith, and Reason, were the two books that they were going to do at once for the pictures. So Vince, it didn't go well. It was like a drizzly day in the Bay Area. He was out. I wasn't into it. It just didn't work. You know, I could see it wasn't working. Vince had come all the way out from New York, and he's a great photographer. And he's wrapping up his equipment. He actually packed it all up and put it in his rental car. And he came down to my house, and I was saying, I'm sorry it didn't work out. Come in, let's have a coffee. As he's leaving in the car, like the mood changed. It was like gloomy instead of sunny. I was outside. I said, Vince, get your camera. And he got two shots that were awesome. One of them, I was sitting on the back of my house with drizzle falling on my head, and that's the God, Faith, and Reason. He actually caught my soul. It's frightening. I think I lost my soul from that picture. Like primitives used to not let you take their pictures. They were afraid that like you were stealing their soul. In a way, it's true. You know, Vince, you stole my soul in this picture, God, Faith, and Reason. You like did a Norman Vincent Peale picture of me. Like the compassionate, nice Michael is there. Then the one on Trump's War is with the hat where I look like a longshoreman dressing up for like a shindig with the longshoreman hat, Trump's War's Battle for America. How did that book become number one with all the boycotts against me? I'll never, because of the incident, the Tiburon incident the incident with the thug. It wound up all over the world. It was on a Drudge Report for 2 weeks because of that. So I guess if I want my next book to sell, I guess I have to do a Kate or a Anthony. I'm not planning on it. I'm not going to do that. Imagine how a book would sell if you committed suicide because you were boycotted. Man, that would be good for sales. Everybody would love that one. He killed himself because nobody would have him on their show. And to prove how great he was, he threw himself on. I'm not going to do a Golden Gate Bridge. But the sales would go up. Why is it that people buy stuff when you die? I don't get that. Why does your popularity go up when you knock yourself off? What people will do for fame, my goodness. My opinion on that whole issue, I never followed up on that show from last Friday about suicide and depression. Here's what you think. Only one thing to carry home. One take-home message. Don't rush it, man, because it's coming anyway, Let God decide when your time is up. Don't rush it. It's going to be here sooner than you know. That's it. Don't push the envelope on that one. It's not yours to do anyway, so what's the rush? You'll get there eventually. That's eventually God will call when you least expect it. Because you can't pick it. You're not going to pick the day. I'm thinking about that. I wrote that in the book with the Israeli intelligence agent in God, Faith, and Reason, where I'm at the funeral of the guy who survived the Holocaust and he's being buried, and the guy cackles in God, Faith, and Reason. I got to read this line to you. It's so good. Here it is. I got to read this to you. Page 230 of God, Faith, and Reason. The father has cancer, and I had known him often, a little bit, the father, not much, the Holocaust survivor whose fingers were cut off by the Nazi. And it's a great story, unfortunately filled with tragedy. So I'm talking about before he died, years before. I went over to see him when Murray called and said his father was dying. We brought a bag of groceries, French bread, a pound of sliced turkey, some wine, some vegetables, and a quart of milk. The usual stuff you bring when someone's sick, poor, and housebound. Florence and Joel greeted us at the door of their little one-bedroom apartment on Van Ness. I always liked it they're remembering the few dinners they invited us to. Having been in the antiques business like my deceased father, Benny, the place was filled with oversized, high-quality furniture and paintings. His father, Murray, was in a bathrobe in a gigantic English armchair, shrunken but beautiful in a way. He pulled me close and said, Michael, I remember when you took me and Joel to Chabad in Berkeley almost 20 years ago. I know you almost 20 years. That's not a short time. You took me to a bar after on Telegraph. Those were the good times. Now are the bad times. Bob, I prodded, you hear this? I extend one good deed 20 years ago, and this guy remembers. It's like one of the best moments of his life, this one good drink I bought him. So he goes fast into the hospital where he insists they let him out, probably to die at home. And 3 or 4 days later, boom, it's over. Like that? Yeah, Joel told me he had been sick most of the night, vomiting, probably those toxic chemochemicals. He forces himself up and says, Joel, she's there on your left, the angel of death. Joel gets scared. He says, Pop, there's nobody here but me and Mom. Murray stares at the big chair across the small room. To your right, Joel, on the couch. He's here with her. He stands up, starts to walk across the room, and collapses. I can see that even the anti-Semite Bob, who I'm telling the story to, is tearing up, wiping the tears from his face. Listen, you racist, I said to him. Looking at that hole in the ground with Murray's casket so bare and hearing the rabbi's ancient chant and watching the young Mexican gravedigger move by that chant, I became reminded of my own hole waiting. I never knew where I wanted to live, I whispered to Joel's friend from Israeli intelligence, and I sure don't know where I want to die. We never know where we're going to die, he reminded me with a 70s rocker's cackle and grin. That was supposed to be the last lines of the book, God, Faith, and Reason, but I changed it at the end by adding another story to it called The Savage Duality of Man, Animal Soul, Spiritual Soul. There is a war within each of us due to the duality of the human soul, but I don't want to read that to you now. My point is about death is that we never know where we're going to die, and I was going to say to you that people who commit suicide want to control their destiny so badly that they want to take control and wrest the reins of their death from God. Did you hear what I just said to you? Has anyone ever said that to you as clearly as I just did? Clint, I haven't read that anywhere. It's a keen insight when you think about it. Because most of us see suicide as tragedy, and in a way it is for all of us who survive and for the person who couldn't take the pain, right? But I'm getting off the track here. What's the track? There are no tracks. There's no track. This show is not on a track. This show is a series of circles. Right now we're going to go to another circle within the circles of the show, which is this Godfather clip I asked for during the break when I ran upstairs to have tuna fish with a cracker, and my dog brought me back down. It's the scene from Godfather 1 where Tom Hagen is the lawyer for the mob, the Corleone family. And he flies out to Hollywood to see the movie mogul because he's trying to get the Frank Sinatra character to get a part in the movie, remember? And the producer won't have him in the movie, and he's trying to convince him to put him in the movie. This is before the Horsehead scene. So listen to the scene just for a minute, and I'll tell you why I'm playing it.
Johnny Fontaine never gets that movie. That part is perfect for him. It'll make him a big star. I'm going to run him out of the business, and let me tell you why. Johnny Fontaine ruined one of Walt International's most valuable protégés. For 5 years, we had her under training, singing lessons, acting lessons, dancing lessons. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on her. I was going to make her a big star. And let me be even more frank. Just to show you that I'm not a hard-hearted man, that it's not all dollars and cents. She was beautiful. She was young. She was innocent. She was the greatest piece of ass I've ever had, and I've had them all over the world. And then Johnny Fontaine comes along with his olive oil voice and guinea charm. And she runs off. She threw it all away just to make me look ridiculous. And a man in my position can't afford to be made to look ridiculous. Now you get the hell out of here. And if that goomba tries any rough stuff, you tell him I ain't no band leader. Yeah. I heard that story.
Thank you for the dinner and a very pleasant evening. If your car could take me to the airport.
Yeah, that's a great scene, but I'm playing it for a reason. So the powerful producer says he'll never work in my town, right? Basically, because he stole a girlfriend from him. And what I'm saying to you is the same czar-like mentality exists now amongst the czarinas and the czars of Hollywood. And that is why I consider myself to be very lucky that I'm an outsider, and I will never work in Hollywood or on Netflix or on HBO or Showtime. You'll never see me on Fox News. You'll never see me on ABC, CBS, or NBC. You have only one chance to hear me, and that's on the Savage Nation radio show. And, that's it. This is it. It's my only outlet to you right here. This is it. And it's not because I stole someone's girlfriend in Hollywood. Don't get me wrong. It's because whoever it is that runs the show doesn't want me to be seen or heard. It's that simple. So I'm very proud and happy to be here. Now, that's not what the show is about. It's about all the other things. Feminism, how it's affected father-daughter relations in America. And I didn't even tell you that story yet. I hinted at it. I asked you if you were new to America. Not if you are, but if you were. How would you begin? Where would you begin? How would you start? What would your first thing? What would you do? How would you begin in this country if you were a new immigrant? Where would you begin? Because not all of them come here to take welfare. What would you do to start with? I'll be right back.
Savage.
All right, so let's see what's in the news. Ho-hum. Cohen flips. No one knows who Cohen is. So they don't care about that. If he committed a crime, let him do their time. De Niro bombs. Keitel's son mugged. If you were a new immigrant to America, what would you... They don't look at the news. You think, well, websites? Think a guy comes over to this country, he's looking at a website or listening to talk radio? He's working for a living. I'm always amazed when I take a day off what people are actually doing between the hours that I'm on the air. I get so angry. People have the nerve. They're actually having lunch in the Bay Area, enjoying themselves, drinking wine, looking at the Bay. How dare they not be listening to my show? Or you consider drive time on the East Coast. How dare they not be listening to Michael Savage? What, are they crazy? They don't know what they're missing? You think they're caught up in every little breath of Donald Trump? Who said this? Who said that? He did this. He did that. They don't even know who Kim is. They have no idea who he is. Some guy with a bad haircut. Shook the hand. Look at the average person. They look at a news machine. They see some fat guy with a bad haircut shaking the hand of the president. They don't even know who he is. And then they hear it's good. They don't know why it's good or bad. They don't turn on cable news. It's a very small audience. All of us is comparatively very small. Even if you have like 3 million listeners a night, that's small. Think about it in a nation of this size. 3 million, let's say there's 100 million. Of the population's what now, 250? What? I don't know what the population is. 300 million? Clint, does anyone know? Look up the population of America. So, figure 50% are children. 25% are immigrants. So of the people left, that's not a lot of people who are listening to radio or watching the news. They don't know what's going on, nor do they care. You think they follow every little quirk and this and that? They don't. They have lives to... How many? 325. That's the pop of America. What percent of children under 18 who don't listen to television, watch television, or listen to talk radio? Very high percent. What percent are immigrants who don't listen to talk radio or watch television news? Except maybe in their home country language, like Spanish, or they turn on like Russian television. This is the latest news from Moscow. They listen to the native language. They don't listen to me. So we all think that the world's listening to us, hanging on every word. They're not. Hard but fair, the Savage Nation.
Savage.
Get on up, sex machine. Ho-hum, how boring. Sex is boring. I mean, everywhere you turn, another sex story. Who cares? The human body, think about it. There's something always falling off or breaking. I'd rather talk about how to cure toenail fungus than talk about collusion or Cohen. I could do a more interesting segment on how to cure toenail fungus using eucalyptus oil and other products rather than talk about, Trump and this and Mueller. How much can I take of it? Why is that so upset? Why is everyone obsessed with that over and over again? Cohen's going to flip. Not going to flip. Then they want to break California into 3. What difference would it make to me if they break California into 3 parts? We'd have 3 choices: communist, super communist, and extra super communist. That's the 3 choices. And all people who earn a living leave. That's all. Take a look at the political race in San Francisco. You see the 2 whack jobs that were running against each other? One conceded, the other one won by like 30 votes, then 50 votes, then 80 votes. No Goodnick from the top to the bottom. The other one's worse than him. The guy who just lost, Leno, I remember he was in a parade once outside the North Beach restaurant. Those of you know what I'm talking about. When Lorenzo was alive, God rest his soul. He used to have like a free Columbus Day dinner. He put it on for like 150 people. It was always like in the hot sun. It was really great. And the parade would go by, the Columbus Day parade. So about 10 years ago, this guy Leno was a supervisor. He was a real no-goodnick in my book. And he comes by crowing on the top of the car. A leftist, a classic leftist. So far to the left of the left that they love him to death in the city. Anyway, so he's on the parade cart, or the float, and he looks like Caesar up there, waving to the crowd. So I took a glass of wine. He didn't know me. I was a new talk show host, and I went up to him and I said, Supervisor Leno, here is a glass of hemlock. And his face went from the big smile. He actually knew what hemlock was. I guess he read his Plato or his Aristotle, whatever. I wasn't threatening him. It was a joke. It was just sarcasm. But that's the city, you know what I'm saying? The water coolers here are made of hemlock for those of us who actually make a living. That's why we choose not to go over to the bridge as often as possible. But it's a beautiful city. I got to tell you, I don't want to be negative about San Francisco. After all, I guess I should have a Warriors bumper sticker or something, or a flag, even though I don't follow the game. I can't get too into the basketball or the baseball or the football. Or the whole ball thing is not my cup of tea. I mean, I get it. I understand. The average moron has nothing to live for, so he lives through a team. That's like it's like the Gladiators. At least no one dies. So what are we calling about today? They already hung up, and I got too esoteric. I had tons of calls in the first hour on the feminism and father-daughter relationship, because every guy I know who has a big voice, speaks like a man, the daughter hates him. I don't know what it is. Unless you sound like Mr. Rogers, they're afraid of you. Women I think it's the same with dating today. I don't know. I'm not a young guy. If you sound too much like a man, they shun you. They're terrified. You have to be metro or feminist in order to get a woman today if you're young. You have to actually change the tenor of your voice to like a high-pitched voice and sound unthreatening. It's like a bird has to change like the tweet now in the trees. Imagine if the mating of birds changed and like the male bird gets up to the poor. You ever listen to birds? It's like I listen to birds sometimes. It's like very sad. The poor guy gets up in a tree, sits there for hours, and no one comes over to him. It's sad in a way. You feel bad. You want to get him like a girl bird and put a girl bird in the tree. He sits up there like doing the song for hours. And no one, they don't care about him. So even like the birds have to change their singing today. Maybe the birds have gotten whacked out from the vibrations of the extraterrestrial landscape of the satellites and the Fox and CNN thing. I don't know what's doing it to them exactly. But even the mating habits of birds, is there an ornithologist in the house who can confirm this? That birds' mating calls have to be altered now to get the female interested. Even female birds are avoiding male birds today. Although the other day I saw one, it was like really weird. It's not graphic. You can watch. It's like a little bird came on my deck, and she was sitting there. I know she must have been the she because she stood on the rail, and I guess the male bird came and alighted upon her, and like a lot of fluffing of feathers. for a second, and then he goes, flies away. And then she ruffles her feathers. And then 2 seconds later, 3, he comes back again. Another jumps on her back. I don't know what the connection is. I didn't know there's a way to get through on the top of the back of the female bird, but apparently it's on the top of the bird. There's some way that and then that's it, 2, 3 times. So I do see that they still mate. I see the little bird, certain kind of little bird does mate out here, but not being an ornithologist, I don't know what the species is. But the other guys, there's some bigger birds. They make sounds for hours. It's heartbreaking. I particularly like to watch hawks. I have a house on the top of a hill somewhere, and every year I watch the hawks come around. They circle and circle and circle. It's so beautiful to watch them as they strike. God knows what they're killing. A mouse, another bird, some kind of insect that they call a mook. Do they think that the thing they're killing is a mook, a bum? Do they actually hate the thing they're killing? Like the cognition of a hawk, before he flares down like a jet pilot, right? And he strikes that squirrel. Does he have to hate the squirrel to eat it? Does he have to do a De Niro on the squirrel? Look at that rotten squirrel down there. That squirrel's a mook. He's a bum. He's a bum. He's a mook. And then he kills it. I don't know. Does he have to build up a hatred? Or is it pure instinct that he's starving to death and there's no McDonald's for hawks? I don't really know the answer. If you're calling from outside the big cities, the porn belts, as I told you, the show is heard all over the country, but I divide it into the porn belt and the corn belt. If you're listening to the show in a porn belt city, your answer to the question of how has feminism warped the father-daughter relationship, which will be different than if you're calling from the corn belt. I think in the corn belt, the women still get along with their fathers. Dad is still, Father's Day is coming up. That's why I'm thinking about this topic. This Sunday, right? Father's Day, big day. What are all the guys going to do who have no children? And they hate their parent. Where are they going to go? What do they do on Father's Day if they have no children? I know it's a Hallmark birthday and all, but I'm like a sucker. I send flowers from Mother's Day. I send them for all these holidays. I send them for their daughter's day. Like this Friday, I have a granddaughter's graduating. What's the first school, preschool? I'm not even going to be that. See, I'm not going to be that. I should be there, but I'm not. Send flowers. What am I going to do? Everything's too far away from me. I'm not a good guest to sit in an audience, so I don't go anywhere. But I may go to L.A. this weekend for Father's Day to be with the family. I got to be with someone. Imagine being in Beverly Hills for Father's Day, what that's going to be like, where they eschew family. They're the same thing, same scene. They'll all go, that night with the gelled hair and the pasta palaces in Beverly Hills, $18 for whatever. I don't care about the money. The poseurs are overwhelming. Everyone's got a deal pending, a deal about to be made. It was just made. And they have to tell you the whole deal in every restaurant. Everyone screams at the top of their lungs about the deal they just made. They're going to make. They just made it. They're going to have it. If it's such a good deal, you don't talk about it generally. The people I know with deals pending never talk about them. But the restaurants are full with poseurs. And it's fun once in a while to be around them in Beverly Hills. I like the outfits. The women with the high heels almost breaking their ankle. I don't know how they even walk after those meals. And then there's the car scene with the car hop. The valet, they call it today, the car hop. What kind of car could you pull up in? I'd like to go there in a clunker. I'd like to go with my old van, but you can't. You're not allowed to even drive that in Beverly Hills for dinner. Imagine if I had a Brady Bunch van and I pulled up. Everyone has to have the better car. Like a Mercedes is nothing. Even a new Mercedes, no one looks at it. What kind of cars do they get a reaction? Then it's always like the real loser has to have a Lambo. Make sure that he's got to make sure that you choke on his fumes as he leaves. What is he speeding to? He gives the guy the tip. He gets in the car and he speeds away like he's racing to a meeting, right to the next corner to the traffic light in his Lamborghini. It's unbelievable. I had my Dodge Hellcat down there. Never took it to dinner once. Sat in the garage. It sat there for so long I brought it up to San Francisco. Now I drive it. I love that car. The Hellcat's my favorite. I gave up on the Jaguars. Did I tell you that? I spent a fortune redoing the old Jags. I love them, but I don't know. It's such like driving an antique. It's like a Maxwell, a 1913 Maxwell. I don't want to be in it. No matter how well it handles, it's a museum piece. So now I drive American Muscle. I feel much better. It's more me than a fussy, fruity Jaguar. It's a nice car. Don't get me wrong. But what it is, I took it on a long ride. And nothing wrong with it. I spent the fortune. It's perfect. around the back country road, and there were like holes in the ground. I didn't like it. It was this clunking. It wasn't that much fun. I spent a fortune on it. Everything was redone. It's a museum piece. It'll be worth a lot of money. I don't really care. But I got in the muscle car. Really enjoyed that thing. The engine, I'm going to show people that motor with it. You know, when that blower kicks in, I like to use the word blower instead of turbocharger. It is such a beautiful sound when I even lightly step on the gas on that Hemi engine. You hear that blower whine. It does something to guys like me from a generation past. You understand what I'm saying to you? I don't even know who's listening anymore to the show. Does anyone listen to the show know what I'm talking about when I say a blower? It's not a blower. It's like a word for a supercharger on an engine. Raise your hand if you know what a blower is. I'm not talking about a hairdryer. Well, the whine of the blower on the Dodge Hellcat is something that brings a smile to my lips, and I can't help it. It's an actual response. It's an order, my face lights up. Like last night, I took it for a ride there, like 2 hours after the show, sun going down. Unluckily for me, I was behind a cop the whole way was I going. This cop came. I had to drive right behind him. Now, what do you do if you're in a Hellcat? He's in front of you. You know he's looking at you in the rear mirror. You're dying to open it up, but you can't. You got to keep a certain distance, right? So, he finally pulls off to the police station. What are you going to do then? Speed? And he's going to hear the blower whine? He's going to follow you into town and give you like a $3,000 ticket and take you to jail. So the whole ride was ruined. At least going home, I had a nice ride home. Bay on my side. I didn't even drink, not even a single drink. I once asked someone in the CHP, how many people do you think coming over the Golden Gate Bridge at night after 8 o'clock have had more than the limit? And he said to me, how many? He said, say that again. How many people do you think who are driving over the Golden Gate Bridge from San Francisco after 8 o'clock at night are above the legal limit? He said, all of them. So I said, how do you know who to pull over? He said, well, we generally don't pull anyone over unless they're acting, in a risky manner. That's the truth. They know you're all drunk. Today, everything. But I learned years ago, use an Uber or have a friend drive. Never. I won't drive with one drink at all. Zero. Not that I learned my lesson. I just know the lesson. The jails are filled with... I drive by the churches, like we all do. No one goes to worship anymore. They're all like basically drunk tanks. These are people who are signed by court. It's sad to see it on there. Like Tuesday night, I know the church you drive by. The lot's full. They're not in there to worship. They're there because it's court ordered. You have to go to treatment in a church where some tells you can't do this, you can't do that. It's true. I mean, you got to do something. Drunk driving is terrible. There's a lot of deaths from it all. How about stone driving? Where are the clinics for that? How many people are ripped here where I live, or where you live, on the evil weed, Mary Jane? How many are stoned out of their minds who shouldn't be behind a tractor on a farm, let alone a car? I'd be worried about them running over a chipmunk. They shouldn't be on marijuana. They can put their fingers in the blades. But no, they're on the road. No crime for that one. Well, I'm running short of time. I'll be back.
Savage.
Okay, I'm going to talk about sleep. I told you before, I'll tell you again, it's the most important thing in the world. To me, it is. So I picked Casper mattress because they created the most exceptionally comfortable mattress or sleep experience I've ever known. And I've been sleeping on a Casper for how many years now? I don't know. 3-4 years? It's unbelievable. And if you get a Casper, you'll totally understand why it's not just my favorite mattress, but the internet's too. Casper has created 3 unique mattresses that will help you sleep cool and comfortable year-round. There's the Wave mattress with remarkable technology. There is the Casper mattress, which is more breathable and comfortable. And then there's the Essential mattress, which is an innovation at a great price point. And remember this, all Casper mattresses are designed with zone support to coddle and comfort your every move, and they all provide the perfect support for every position you might sleep in. So why don't you see for yourself why Casper has hundreds of thousands of happy customers. Try your Casper mattress for 100 nights in your own house. Free shipping, free returns. Just go to Casper.com, code SAVAGE, to save $50 on the purchase of select mattresses. Get it? Write it down, Casper.com, code SAVAGE, to save $50. Terms and conditions apply. See site for details. I want to read you something I just found. Someone was going through all my archives and all my letters and my notes, and this came up from December 31st, 2015, from my old friend Joseph Farah of WorldNet Daily. And at the time, Joseph and I were talking about him publishing my journals, which the deal just never happened. I decided not to do it. I didn't want my journals published. We got pretty far along, so he says to me, hey, Savage, Happy New Year. He said, I was playing with the conventional copy my team was playing with for the book, and I was doing it stream of consciousness as a fan, as a disciple, as an acolyte. What do you think about something like this, he writes. Dr. Michael Savage is unlike any other talk host in the world. He's too smart, too informed, too well-educated to be considered a shock jock, but shocking he is. Unconventional he is. Like a virtuoso, he segues instantly and effortlessly from blasting the Washington political establishment and political correctness to what dinner was like at his favorite Chinese restaurant or his best meatball recipe, evoking laughter and or righteous indignation from his millions of listeners. And somehow, some way, it all works together in an artful, adroit, ingenious way, like a script no one could write. The late Lenny Bruce was a comedian, social commentator, and agitator. Michael Savage brings back that unique combination of artistry, but with an audience Lenny Bruce could never have imagined, a nearly unrivaled daily national talk radio gathering of 10 million with an internet echo chamber far larger. Savage makes you laugh, makes you cry, makes you angry, makes you smile with the contentment that comes with knowing someone is speaking for you. The Michael Savage Show is like a daily audio roller coaster ride. Maybe it has something to do with his unique life story. A scientist from the Beat Generation, a dreamy-eyed social worker mugged by reality, scholar and author of 30 books who can rhapsodize in stream of consciousness from 3 hours a day. Who can rhapsodize in stream of consciousness form 3 hours a day on his national pulpit. Happy New Year, Joseph Farah. Well, Joseph, if you're listening, that's a nice copy. It just fell out of a folder, if you can believe it. But I think it sort of summarizes what I've been trying to tell you. This unique show has enjoyed a phenomenal following up until now, but I am telling you that like that songbird in the tree I told you about earlier, things are changing in talk radio in ways that you could never imagine. The people have become robotic. Either you're for Trump or you're against Trump. Leave me out of it if you don't mind.
Michael Savage, a host like no other.